Let's box out a window the easiest way possible. First, we order a window 3 inches smaller than the existing opening. Alright, keeping it simple, just build a 2x10 box that will fit in your rough opening and fit your new window. Alright, so the old window's out, but this is the old sill. So we're just going to simply build that up with some PT. There it is, all framed up. Time for the dry fit. Dry fit's perfect, that's awesome. Now I know it looks like we got a lot of space on the sides, however, we're going to use rigid insulation to get that all nice and insulated. There's our normal window sill tape. Then we set our bead of silly around. We check to make sure the window's square by doing the old crisscross with the tape, and it's good. Unfortunately, the reveals aren't exactly the same, which means something's out of whack, but that's old framing, so whatever. We double check the bottom and the sides for level, and they look pretty good, and I can make any adjustments with the framing. I can fake your eyes out when I do the trim work, so all good. Time to screw it off. So I put a hefty bead of silly around, and I'm actually going to tape while it's still wet so everything dries and dries together. Alright, it's all taped up now. Now we'll get it rigid insulated and trimmed on the outside and inside. So we'll insulate this like we would trim it, which means we'll start at the bottom, flush with the edges. We'll go flush with the top, run the sides down to the length of the bottom, and then run the top long. There it is with some insulation and some tape, because why not? Alright, so I built a 5/4 by 5 frame to tuck in. The reason that I chose to use 5/4 was simply because there was 3 inches between the J channel and the framing. So 2 inches on the rigid and 1 inch added up. That's also why there's 1.5 inches total here with 1.5 inches. And at the top, if you're an eagle eye, you saw that there was 2 inch plus 1/2 inch. That just made everything work out. I'll flush this up with this here, the flange. So once the trim goes on, we're good to go. To trim it, we're gonna go with a reverse reveal, which basically just means you come over here and then add a 1/2 inch. So 39 5/16 plus a 1/2 inch, 39 13/16. We'll carry those legs down. All right, so there's my header piece. And this is a little trick I do. I'm actually out of PVC biscuits, but use the pluggable screws, and I'll show you what I do with the leg. So then I simply use a 1/4 inch Forstner. You can use a brad point or whatever, and those should pop right in, line up nicely for the glue to set up, and they do hold. You can see it's actually holding the whole thing right now, but it's a good little trick. All right, we got the exterior trim all set. Last thing we did was add some weep holes on the underside, and now we can go and trim the interior. Now jumping to the inside, we have an imperfect opening. So first, we'll tuck our casing up against each side and mark it, and that will give us a starting point for the width of our sill. We can decide based on this thickness plus the overhang how deep we want to be, and then we want to match that on our wings. We have 1.25 inches here, so we're going to take advantage of that and just put in a piece of 1/2 inch rigid insulation for our sill. Now we can see that the 1/2 inch insulation with the 3/4 sill gets us right where we want to be with the window crank. And I chose to do 1 5/8 inch strong depth on this wing because that gives us 1 inch reveal on both of those sections, which you're always trying to aim to have the same reveal there. Can't always happen, but you try to. Now the depth for the extension jamb would be 7.25, but because we don't have the width, what we're gonna do to buy ourselves some width, it's actually gonna look a little nicer, is do a double reveal. And because the window's not perfect with the cabinets are actually at a level, the window's fine, but we're gonna use this bulky side to fudge and fake the eyes out, and you'll never be the wiser, but let's show you how to do that. Now this is the closest we can get with our jam stock, well actually right here, while still covering this. So that's actually a 7/16 reveal, which is big, but Over here we do have this enough room to do like a 3/8, which is still big. However, we have to match the 7/16, so this will move over a little bit. We'll match the 7/16 on the double, and it'll still look good. After dry fitting everything with the intended reveals, we have about an 1/8 over here and about a strong 5/16 over there. So we'll split that difference on the height with a shy 1/8 or so, and it'll be very difficult to notice the reveal differences from one side to the other. Now using a square, we can add some screw shims to the bottom, and then we level the leg up. We mark that side of the leg, and then we use a piece of scrap to add a screw shim in the middle run. We do that on both sides. That'll let me nail the legs a little bit. So there's our first extension jam, and I'm actually going to put the skirt on first. I chose to go with this because it's a fairly similar profile, but it comes in 2 1/4. I have 2 1/8. Give it the rip, send her in. I could have modified by ripping some off of this, some off of this, and doing a 1/4 inch or 3/16 beading bit with the router, but I actually like the way that sits, so I'm happy with it. And there it is. We cheated in 4 places, I believe. I put a little space up there to help with the reveal. We used a different piece of trim, but I do like the profile. It's pretty close. We did a double reveal. It's a little bit chunky. I was considering doing some sort of a round over a cove, but decided against it because whatever. When you come around, you have 1 7/8, 1 3/4, 1 5/8. But, you know, sometimes you just got to roll with the punches. It still looks good, and that's just solving problems. One final note on the outside is if you don't have the luxury of a soffit overhang, then you'll have to do some sort of bent metal. You know, you'll need a brake and stuff, or you'll have to build a small hip roof. That really complicates things, obviously, but if you do have the soffit, then it's much easier. Good luck.